What up, guys? So today we got an interesting question from Cody, who asks, basically, can you go or can you give 100% in training without, in his own words, without going Psycho 9000? So I guess it's like a power level reference from Dragon Ball Z, but can you give 100% without going 100%? So it's an interesting question, Cody. So I think what you really have to start with is you have to start with what you mean by 100%. We'll talk about the intensity level, right? So when you say 100%, when I think of my 100%, I think about the intensity that I bring to the match, or to a match or a fight in a competition setting, right? Not training. I'll talk about why I can't go do that in the gym anyway. And so that is what I mean by when I think of 100%. It's like the intensity I bring to that, the pace that I bring to that, the speed that I bring to that. And I can't bring that to the gym. I know some people may be different than me, but I can't bring that to the gym. Primarily because, one, the adrenaline's different. I don't have the adrenaline going like I do in a competition in the gym. Now, there's some things that you can do to mimic it a little bit, but it's not quite the same, right? And if you've ever had an MMA fight, it is completely different than anything else. I mean, you're in a ring with another human being, and you have the license to do things that are 100% illegal outside of that space. You know, if you live in a country like America, right? So it's an intense thing. And you guys are just going after each other, and you both have the license to do bodily harm to each other, and it's completely okay. Gets the nerves going a little bit, right? You get a little bit more adrenaline pumping. Also, and this is more important, I like my training partners. So I can't go 100% with them because I like them, and I don't want to hurt them. Not that I want to hurt my competitors or my combatants that I'm competing against, but sometimes it happens. And sometimes things happen that in the gym I would sort of stop and I would pause for a second to check on them. A great example is when I was competing a number of years ago. I was going against a guy, and it was a pretty fast-paced match that I won, but I mean, I shot like 3 takedowns within like 1 minute. And during one of the takedowns, my head hit his face. Now, I didn't realize it was his face. I thought it was like some part of his hip or something. Turned out it was his face, and eventually I ended up finishing with a clock choke, and like blood was squirting out of his nose, right? Now, again, I didn't stop. Now, if I was in the gym and I had felt my head like headbutt someone like that, I would pause and say, hey, bro, you okay? And check on him, right? And then I would continue going. But in a competition, I don't care. Again, I will not unnecessarily hurt anybody because I have respect and empathy for the fellow warriors that I'm competing against, right? But at the same time, when we're in it, we both understand that. We both have that agreement. We're just going. We're going after each other. And I can't bring that intensity into the gym because I like the people I'm going with. I guess the only way that maybe that could change is if I thought for some reason that someone was being very dangerous or going out of their way to try to hurt me, which has never happened before in the gym. So therefore, I can't bring that intensity out. So that's my take on that. Now, there's an interesting thing to think about. When I was younger, I only could go 100%. Like when I rolled, that's all I could do was 100%. It didn't matter if I was rolling in the gym or competing, it was always 100%. And that was primarily fueled by fear and insecurity in myself, right? And then sometimes you'll find this interesting thing where many people can't even turn that aggression on at all. It's like some people were like me, they've got the light switch and they just go 100% all the time. And then some people, they don't know how to go 100%. They don't have a light switch yet. Now, eventually I developed a dimmer. So I have a little dimmer switch where I can go a little harder sometimes and I can go a little easier sometimes. And when I compete, that's like a light switch to a whole different room. Now, to go back to the other part of your question, right, to talk about it, because again, I can't go 100%. This is me personally. I'm sharing my philosophy with you. You got to do what you got to do. Again, these videos are not to tell you what is the right way or whatever. You got to figure it out for yourself and experiment, right? You're a martial artist, and martial artists, I mean, we can talk about this stuff intellectually, but again, at the end of the day, you got to put it in practice. So here's the other thing to think about. You said give 100%. It depends on the type of training that you're involved in, right? Like, let's say that if, like when I was getting ready for the Nogi Worlds in 2022, I was doing a lot of drilling sessions in the morning where there was no rolling. It was all drilling. Sometimes we would do some situational work or some hand fighting work, but otherwise it was all drilling. Excuse me, I think I said all rolling, all drilling. Just basically we had our moves that we were working on, reps, 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 reps. And going 100% in that meant simply staying focused on the movement. Right? There's a lot of evidence to back this up. If you go through things mindlessly, it's not nearly as powerful as if you were doing those movements while you're focusing. They've done some studies on this with like swimmers and stuff, where if the swimmers that were like the best swimmers, they were also the ones that were the most like focused on each rep, how it felt, everything else, opposed to the ones that were okay. Those guys were basically swimming and just, it was a mindless rep to them. And so I'm trying to stay focused on those repetitions. Now, it's not particularly hard in the physical sense. I'm not rolling, I'm not getting beat up, but it is very hard for me to stay focused for a solid hour on doing the same motion over and over and over again and trying to make sure I stay focused on that repetition. So that's an idea of going 100%. But again, the training situations can change. And you also have to take into account where you are on that day, right? Because let's say this is something you learn from weightlifting, right? If you sometimes have worked off of percentages, or you have a plan and you're going back on, okay, what did I lift last week or something like that? Let's say that you missed some sleep. You didn't get enough sleep one day. Or maybe you missed a meal. Or you didn't drink enough water. There's a lot of variables that can go into this. Or sometimes you might even find that you might be coming down with something, you find out later on, but for some reason you fell off. Your 100% that day is gonna be very different than a day where you're 100% rested and you feel great. But I would say that it's 100%, it is possible to give I don't even wanna say 100%, because when I think of 100%, again, that's a big number. And I'm thinking like you dumped it all out there. And that's not something that I would want to be doing every single training session anyway, especially if you're talking about 100% physically, but giving 100% of what's required and giving my all to that training session, whether that means I'm staying focused and doing what I got to do, or I'm giving 100% of myself, whatever I've got in the tank, so to speak. I think you can do that without going 100% psycho 9,000, as you said in your message, right? Without going into that intensity that sometimes can be dangerous for you and dangerous for your training partners. Now, for some people, if you've never gotten into that space, if you've never touched that before, that intensity, if you've never flipped that light switch on, it's important that you do go there at some point. This could be at a competition. This is sometimes like one of the best things sometimes to learn how to turn that aggression on, is to go to a competition, to have someone grab you and basically shake the hell out of you a little bit, so that you learn almost from feeling it, right? Martial arts is very much of a feeling thing. We can talk about this stuff intellectually, but when you feel it, it's different. And so sometimes that can be a great way to do it. That's how I learned how to do it. Is I competed in wrestling, had the crap kicked out of me, and I was like, oh, that's what I'm getting ready for. I need to turn it up a little bit. But again, maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but also to my 100% has also gone up a lot. So I can't go 100%, but I can still get a lot of training, and I can prepare well and get what I need to get out of training in order to compete and be successful. So I don't know if I answer your question great on that 100%, because again, I'm still playing around with what does it mean to be give 100%, right? That can change. But as far as giving 100% intensity in the gym, I can't do it personally. But maybe those are a few ideas to chew on for you, Cody, and I'll talk to you guys next time.